Now, in more recent years, we've had a chance to work with Eden on one of its big capital build endeavours, which is the building of the core education centre. And this was a chance really for us to get involved in the planning and design and all through the construction of that building. And when we did that, we really wanted to look at how do you integrate something like inclusive design into the whole planning system. So one of the things we looked at as a target was the way that people would move in and out of the building, and particularly in terms of emergency egress. Now, with a multi-level building, you would quite often find that the emergency egress for a wheelchair user would involve going out to a refuge. And this is somewhere where you have a platform outside a door, and you would rely on someone from the rescue services actually assisting you to leave the building. Now, in our view, although this is quite permissible with the legislation, in our view, the ethics of this are kind of questionable. And we wanted to have a building where anybody using it would feel that they are entering and leaving it really on an equal basis. And what we've achieved then is really through the landscape architects and the architects working very closely together with the whole of the design team, was to look at quite creative ways of using landform as a way of ensuring that really, whatever level you are on in the building, you are able to go in and out at ground level outside. Now, we also have a lift in place, but the other thing that we've realised is that, and there are occasions when the lift does break, but if it breaks in this building, it kind of doesn't matter, because if you're a wheelchair user, you can get around the outside. And I think what we've realised from it also is that it's made for a more beautiful building. It's meant that there's a very nice integration between inside and outside. And really it's become something that's very equitable for different people using it. And you don't notice it. So that's the thing about inclusive design, I think, is that really it's kind of invisible that all this amazing effort and all this extra thinking and all this creativity has been put in play. Really what you end up with is just something that's better. We've been looking at some of the text interpretation and thinking, okay, there's 7 million people in the UK who don't have basic literacy. That's quite a big deal. And another million with learning disabilities. So a lot of people out there who can't access basic text. And what you'll see at Eden Project is a lot of pictures used to accompany text, so that if you can't access the words, you've still got something that can give you some of the message. And we've taken that a step further, and we've been using something called Widget. It's a system that uses pictograms, but it's very often used just for people with learning disabilities, and we felt that it would be great to mainstream it. And it means, for example, if you're somebody who comes in and doesn't have English as a first language, or you're dyslexic, or you just don't have that understanding of text, you still can get some of the idea of what the messages are that are being put out.
And of course, the Eden Project is a global garden, so we're showing different cultures and different communities, and it's really important in all our interpretation and everything that we do that we think of the multiculturalism in the UK as well. And we've got a few examples of where we've included a whole range of diversity in some of our exhibits, which is another really important thing.
So one of the things that we've done in the Education Centre is to look at signage as a very important aspect of people finding their way around the building and finding their way to things like toilets and cafes. And with the signs, what you'll see is that they're designed to be very good contrast, they're very clear, but they're also really nice. And that's, again, the message, I think, with this work, is that inclusive design doesn't need to mean making things look dull. It doesn't have to be beige, it can be bright colours, and it can look great. And we've had a huge amount of feedback from visitors to say we really like those signs because we can find the toilets.
So inclusive design at Eden really means that we want not only people to have access to things, everything around the site, but we want them to enjoy their experience here as well. So an example of inclusive design in this particular biome is where we made some handrails which were intended to improve accessibility, but we made them out of material that would have been local to the Mediterranean, out of sweet chestnut, and they've turned into an absolutely wonderful tactile experience. So the handrail actually doubles up as not just as an access aid, it's also thinking about those other details and making things nice to touch. Another thing that's a particular thing of mine really is to do with seat heights. I'm not particularly tall, and the standard size seats I do not find comfortable, and I know a lot of other people don't. So what we try and do is create not just standard seats, we create them at different heights, and that's another really important thing to think about throughout the design process.
One of the best things I think about Eden has really catered for people in wheelchairs. The raised gardens are very special to us all because we don't have to bend down, we can smell them, we can feel the texture of everything, and just having something real close to you that smells nice is really good.
Eden was recently voted top in the new Rough Guide to Accessible Britain in the Parks and Gardens section. And it's a really nice endorsement, I think, of all the work that's been going on here to make the place more accessible and more inclusive. And we all know there's way more that needs to be done, but I think it's been a real accomplishment in what has already been achieved. And something that's very important in that is recognising that inclusive design needs to thread its way through every single aspect of design and management of a place. And it's not something that simply gets done when something is made. It has to be there in the way that things are run. And a good example of that recently has been on the music sessions in the summer. These have been really successful, and we've worked with Eden to make sure that different visitors coming to those music sessions could have a great night. So we invited some people to come in as user testers, and this included people with assistance dogs, people with hearing impairments, people with visual impairments, wheelchair users, people with learning disabilities. And those people came to the sessions and basically shared their feedback on how it was for them and what sort of access improvements they would like to see. And as a consequence, we've been doing this for 3 years now, and the experience has become better and better. And there's a wheelchair accessible platform that's designed, and that was made larger so that more people could use it.
Me and my friends come in here because they've got the sessions that got a platform so I can see over the top of everybody and watch the actual session and have fun with it instead of standing down on the thingy where you can't actually see anything because you're shorter than everybody else.
The Eden project for me is really quite important. At its values, it has accessibility in place. They've been so forward-thinking in making sure that everything's accessible and consulting people like us at an early stage. And it means that I can now come to the Eden sessions, or I can wander around the biomes. Basically, I don't have any access restrictions, and it means that I can come along with people that are able-bodied, and I don't have to worry about any restrictions to having an enjoyment with them for a day out. The Eden project certainly is one of the most accessible places in Cornwall, and I think it's quite renowned for its accessibility and inclusiveness. There are many big recent developments that just basically have had the tokenistic approach whereby the people have been involved too late in the process. So I think the Eden project is certainly leading the way in the way it makes people with disabilities part of the process.